Welcome, vegans and non-vegans, especially non-vegans. I challenge you to a debate. If you want, I can debate you anytime on your position and show you with simple logic that you have to revise your position on not being vegan. It is very easy to show. So that being said, my name is Epic Vegan Power here on YouTube, and I'm debunking non-vegans on a daily basis, and I'm watching videos with you and trying to debunk and find logical problems with arguments. Now we're gonna watch Earthling Ed, which I don't really recommend because he's too lush, he's too weak. He doesn't use the moral argument to its full extent, and he tries to go with the environmental and the health arguments, and also when it comes to animal suffering, he wants to reduce animal suffering, which is a part of being vegan, but it's not really the core. Yeah, we have a moral stance against abusing animals. So we're against animal abuse and we're pro animal rights. So basically, the being vegan is granting the animals the rights and not abusing them and using them as slaves. Okay, let's watch it together. Maybe we can find anything that's interesting, or maybe we discover so many fallacies.
Now, coming up as its popularity plummets, is it time to call out veganism for what it actually is, an eating disorder? But first...
Okay, veganism in principle, it's being conflated with the diet, but it has nothing to do with the diet in the first point, because it is all about the moral, you know. It is about not seeing the animal as a commodity, you know, about granting the animal the rights that we also would grant the humans, the right to life and the right to decide what happens with the body. Okay, so it implies a certain way of living, and that implies a certain way of eating.
Following yet another kiss, now has the vegan bubble burst? According to figures by consumer intelligence company NIQ, in the last 12 months, UK sales of chilled meat alternatives fell by 16.8% in...
Yeah, maybe just vegans are waking up to the fact that they don't need the substitute products.
January 2023, and frozen meat alternatives fell by 13.5%. Companies including Oatly, Nestle, Innocent and Heck Sausages have recently withdrawn various vegan products from the UK, whilst a recent Waitrose survey highlighted a resurgence in the popularity of dishes such as shepherd's pie, macaroni cheese and chicken Kiev. Yum. So, as thousands of Brits go plant-based for the month in a tradition known as Veganuary, a new book is out celebrating...
Okay, what's my opinion on veganuary? Yeah, well, it's not about being vegan, it's just about being plant-based. You know, you can't like understand, if you don't understand the moral issue, you can't go vegan for a month and then go back. You're just plant-based. Yeah, if you understand the moral issue, if you agree that we don't are not allowed to use and abuse animals, then you don't go back on your position.
The vegan diet. It's called How to Argue with a Meat Eater and Win Every Time.
Okay, interesting. I haven't read that. I suppose he's debunking all the arguments about health and environmental issues and so on, which is good in a way. It shows that veganism has other positive effects on the planet and on people, but the fundamental issue is just about morals.
Well, I'm delighted to say its author is Ed Winters, and he joins us now. Ed, lovely to have you on the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Mark.
Listen, what are the most powerful arguments for veganism?
Well, I think there's a number, antibiotic resistance, so reducing antibiotics in our food chain.
Oh my God. That's the most powerful argument. He already fell under the rug. I'm sorry, guys. You may love Ed Earthling, Ed Winters, but asking for the most powerful argument and saying it's antibiotics in the animals is just a fail in my opinion. I would have asked I would have said for the moral argument, not abusing, like the Tash Peterson would answer, or the militante veganerin would answer. It's a sad show.
Trying to prevent infectious
Because when you eat
diseases.
a cow that's been injected with antibiotics, you're eating antibiotics.
Not necessarily. It's not quite as simple as that, but antibiotics, when they're used in the farming system, cause bacteria to become
He's very literate about those things, which is very good, but I wouldn't I wouldn't argue that that's the strongest argument.
resistant to those antibiotics.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that it's in the food we're consuming, but of course the knock-on effect is that we can come into contact with resistant bacteria. But there's also
Yeah, the strongest argument would be saying that you can't, as a meat eater, you can't defend your position. So by default, you have to renounce that position and change to a different position that you can defend.
infectious diseases, bird flu, swine flu, there's the environmental harm, there's some of the health consequences related to certain animal product consumption, and for me the big argument is reducing animal suffering, harm and death. So taking a stand against the unnecessary use and abuse of animals.
Now I've got...
That's good, okay. The unnecessarily use and abuse of animals. Okay, I agree with that. But the rest, like the health, if you take the health argument and it was healthier to eat human beings, could we then justify eating human beings? So that's why the moral argument is the strongest, because in that way you can't justify eating humans. Yes, but if you take the health argument and then you find out, oh, it's healthier to eat humans than animals, well, how do you decide then?
No doubt there are some great recipes in your book, and if people were eating avocados and almonds and salads and courgettes...
Oh, this guy watched too much Piers Morgan.
I can agree it's a healthy diet.
Right.
But the problem is busy vegans don't eat those foods, do they? What they eat is the kind of...
You're now criticizing, that's what about you, that's a tukokwe. Yeah, but you're doing it wrong. You're busy vegan, you're eating chips and Coca-Cola.
instant soya burger, and they're eating just bowls of pasta and, hummus sandwiches.
Balls of pasta. Good, this guy has no idea. And he is slim, so he must be eating like not too fat. And he's probably eating pasta too, so what the hell?
None of which is all that nutritious.
Well, that's not strictly true. I mean, firstly, hummus sandwiches can be very
Yeah, debunk that argument, man, please. It's not very nutritious.
nutritious, as can whole grain pasta dishes. And even when you look at some of the plant-based alternatives, they may not be the healthiest foods you can consume, but when studies compare them to their meat counterparts, they're not only more sustainable, but they are healthier as
It's all
well.
processed.
But it's not about the health argument, It's just difference between meat, animal meat, and mock meat. Yeah, the animal meat is immoral, the mock meat is moral. That's the biggest difference.
Processed though, isn't it? I mean, vegan bacon, I was just in the local M&S the other day, and the first ingredient is water, the second ingredient is sunflower oil.
Well, and bacon's a class 1 carcinogen. Vegan bacon isn't meant to be a health food. It's supposed to replicate and be an alternative to a class 1 carcinogen.
Can
Michael,
I just jump in here, Ed?
Can I just warn you, Michael's just had a steak.
Yeah, like sunflower oil, it's not very healthy in general. So I would agree that it's not a health food. And bacon is probably also carcinogenic. But yeah, we're always skipping the moral component of this. It's missing.
Steak.
But I also know that Michael likes vegan
Ed, can I
sausage
ask you a very
sandwiches.
serious question, please?
So
A
I'll
very
stick
serious
with that.
question, because you're an expert on this. Is it not true that the human body, and I've read a lot of reports on it, needs protein, and protein comes from meat?
The protein argument. Where do I get my protein from? Where do cows get their protein from? From meat? So This can't be a serious question. Just by opening the statement, saying, "I'm gonna ask you a serious question." Well, I'm not believing you. You're not asking a serious question. Do you have protein deficiency? You fat pig. You don't need more protein.
And if you deny a human body that protein, strange things happen to the human body. So veganism, I've got a lot of respect for people who want to be vegans, who want to
You don't respect them as long as you don't go vegan.
eat that way, but
Plus, you don't respect the animals. Also, veganism can be framed as respect for the animals. You can also say that.
do think that, there is almost a kind of, bullying type aspect to you must become a vegan to be a good people. But
Oh, finally, we're going into the morals. Yeah, of course you have to be a vegan to be a good person. Otherwise, you're murderer, abuser, and so on of animals. So does that make you a good person to doing bad stuff to the animals?
I do think that you are denying.
And we are just pointing it out because we at some point, most of us have a bad conscience about it, So we just want to replicate that bad conscience. Something sparked that bad conscience in us that we can't agree to keep on doing that. So many people have that bad conscience. You just need to open their eyes to it.
Your body protein, which is absolutely necessary to the human form.
But all protein comes from plants. Animals get protein from consuming plants. Even carnivores get it from consuming herbivores.
Absolutely, and that's why cows have plenty of protein in them. And then when you eat a steak, you ingest protein.
But you can get protein from plants. All plant protein originates from plants.
He's very good. Yeah. That's how you have to answer. Now let's see how the other guy, if he's gonna accept the debunking.
To eat millions of plants, honestly, Ed, you'd have to eat millions of plants.
I mean, how does a broccoli compare to, let's say, a pork sausage in terms of...
They just ignore it. They just ignore that he debunked them.
Protein.
Or a steak.
Well, they're not necessarily comparable, but broccoli isn't a protein source. But when you compare things like legumes, like soy, and even seitan, which is a plant-based protein, they have comparable, sometimes even higher amounts of protein per gram compared to certain animal products. The point you're making is completely mute. You can get protein in a plant-based diet.
It's not mute. It's
very hard to mute. You can't mute
but
Mike Parry. But I've tried.
You're not arguing against me. You're arguing against the NHS, the British Dietetic Association. You're arguing against the largest bodies of medical and health authorities on the planet.
Ed, wouldn't you say that veganism has lost its way in the sense now it's just become more of a fad and it's just cool to say I'm a vegan, where people are not actually looking at, the health benefits anymore? Everyone's just jumping on this train of being a vegan. Like, to be honest...
Everybody's jumping on this trend where we have, like, maybe a few percent vegans. That's a misrepresentation of the actual facts.
I think, wouldn't it be better to be a vegetarian? Because now people are talking about all these ultra-processed foods.
No, it's better to be It's better to have a little bit of abuse. No, even different abuse type. You have to abuse the animal for years on end to be vegetarian. To have the milk and the eggs, you just don't kill the animal right away. You have to abuse it for years. That's even worse for the animal to be vegetarian.
Fake burgers, fake bacon, which is not good for our health. So wouldn't it be better just to be a vegetarian? And are we losing our way when it comes to veganism?
Well, when it comes to people's health, I'm sure all four of us would agree on the panel that people have the right to their own bodies. And as long as they know that obviously eating a kale, chickpea and sweet potato curry is healthier than eating a processed plant-based burger, I think people have the right to make that decision. The important thing to recognise is, again, even these processed plant-based alternatives, studies show time and time again they are better, healthier, more sustainable than their animal-based counterparts. So
I have a problem with the health argument because everybody is always arguing about health, but when it comes to meat eaters, you're not banning any products from meat eaters that are unhealthy.
That swap straight away is a healthier decision, but I agree. Eating more whole plant foods, fruits, vegetables, legumes is even better for us.
But we're omnivores, aren't we? So we've been eating a mixture of vegetables and meat.
I like that. Now, the bullshit bingo where you have to, tick off cases? He's gonna bring all the bullshit arguments.
Since cavemen.
Well, right, for thousands of
Have
years.
had to.
And we've evolved.
It's tradition. It's in our history. It's in our DNA. Eating meat. Yeah, but now we've come to a point where we can think about it. We can act upon it. Yeah, we have morals. What about that?
Quite strongly in that department, wouldn't you say?
Well, we've evolved as being opportunistic scavengers. We ate what we could to survive.
But would we have done that? Would we have done that without meat, Michael?
We killed animals
that was
because
part of it, yes.
we needed it. We knew right from the birth of man that sustainability in the human form was the food chain, and the food chain involved us killing animals and eating that.
Let me respond.
That's so dumb. We didn't eat only animals.
That point you just made.
Yes, please, yeah.
At that time, we ate what we had to survive. Society's changed and evolved in a number of different ways, and what we have now is information and accessibility to foods that our ancestors never did. Our ancestors used to kill one another, rape one another to survive and to prosper. But
Very good. Now you're trying to appeal to the moral. Yeah, is it okay? We have done those things in the past. Is it okay to do them now? Still do them? Yeah, because humans have done bad things in the past. Are we still okay with doing this in the present and in the future?
we would never condone such a thing now because we live in a modern world where we have the choice and accessibility to do other things instead.
What about the fact that medics recommend people on a vegan diet take supplements?
But Ed is not pressing them. He's just stating, but he's not pressing them. Would you be okay with such and such?
That's not a ringing endorsement, is it?
Well, most people take supplements, whether they be fish oil, of course.
I don't.
But even, well, perhaps you should. Vitamin D in the UK is essential for all of us.
No, can I just say, Mike Parry's body's a temple. No problems there. In fact, I've got a down payment on his kidneys.
But just to bring it back to the point you were saying, the animals in our food chain are fortified, they're supplemented. So actually, we do consume a lot of supplements even when we eat animals. It's just they're filtered through an animal to begin with. So vegans just take a B12 supplement, from the source, which is the supplement itself, and then they stop animals from being forced into gas chambers for a nutrient that we can get from supplements instead.
Can I just flip the coin for a moment? Supposing the argument was the other way around and I said to you, look, I think you should be a vegetarian but eat false vegetables, not real vegetables. You see what I mean? Because you want us to eat false meat, not real meat. So if I said...
No, we vegans don't want you to eat false meat. Oh, man. That's a false premise. Thank you very much.
To you, look, here's a cabbage, but it's a false cabbage. How would you feel about that if I was finding a way to produce...
And what would it be made out of, the false cabbage? Out of meat or what?
It's a false cabbage, not a real cabbage.
Well, I mean, firstly, you don't have to eat plant-based alternatives if you don't want to. Just eat whole plant foods instead. I know that you are quite fond of the vegan sausage, of course. I've seen you eating that sausage back quite nicely. But the point is, the reason that we have these plant-based alternatives is because they're a more ethical decision. So if I eat vegan bacon, vegan sausage, vegan burger, what that means is I'm no longer paying for animals to be mutilated, forcibly
But why do they call it bacon and sausage? It's not, is it? Why do they call it vegan sausage?
Why do they call it sausage in the first place? It's not. It should be called pig.
Vegan bacon.
Sausage refers to the shape.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. But it's
cylindrical shape.
But isn't that conning people? If you say this is a vegan sausage.
Yeah, like the sausage comes like this out of the animal. Yeah, sure.
It's not vegan sausage.
But it's a meat-free sausage. So when people see it, they go, "That is a sausage made from something that isn't from an animal."
Let me tell you, you don't want to see Mike's sausage. Ed, can I tell you that you spoke very well, and your book is out now.
Okay, that's it. A little bit disappointed. Of course, Ed Winters didn't press them on any issue. Of course, that was to be expected because, he doesn't. It's just not his way of doing this. He just presents facts and then lets you decide if the facts are good or not, or the argument is good or not. So he has presenting his position, but he's not debunking the other position, not on the moral aspect, maybe on the health aspect or other aspects we saw, like that vegans force meat eaters to eat non-vegan meats, stuff like that, which was absurd. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one and hope to have a debate where we can focus on your own moral position.